happy to know them. So, ladies and gents, Georgie Fear and junk food. Georgie, please take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Eb. So junk foods and fat loss, this is, believe it or not, one of my favorite topics, because it's one of the things that I feel like our company does differently than a lot of other, weight loss coaches or, different methods. So most of us know which foods are nutritious and which foods are less nutritious. And we also know that for most of our clients being in the kind of fat loss goal, that we want them to eat less of them. But if you want to go to the first slide, Seb, the standard ways that, this is a nice slide here. This is taken from a study that looked at, people who lost weight over a 6-month time period, as well as a 48-month time period. What foods did they eat less of? So it's fairly handy. We can see the darkest black line. Those are people that lost the most weight. And you can see the dessert frequency in the top left corner. It goes down. People go from eating 15 desserts a month to 5 desserts a month, and they lose a significant amount of weight. And you can see similar data for sweetened beverages, eating out at restaurants, fried foods. All those lines go down. And then some of the things that people eat a little more of, like having fish more frequently and increasing their amount of fruits and vegetables, helps them also to lose more weight. And then interestingly, there's a little bit of a trend with decreasing meat and cheese, but we don't consider those treat foods because they are so highly nutritious. So mostly what we're talking about when I say junk foods is desserts, sweetened beverages, eating out, and fried foods. The other thing that isn't on this graph that we want to include in there is also alcohol, which is a subject that I could do an entire webinar on as well, and people would show up to hear it. But so we're kind of lumping all of these foods together in the non-nutritious foods category. Does that make sense? Straightforward enough?
It is. Actually, I really find this one really interesting. It's great to see all the different separations of things.
Yeah, I actually I like looking at the absolute numbers too, because many people will say, like, how much is okay? Like, how much fried food is okay? Well, we can look at the fried food frequency and see most people started at what looks like 9 to 14 in a month. And the people that are like 2 in a month. So that's like the steepest downhill thing. Or the dessert frequency, that one's pretty steep downhill too. People go from eating 14 or 15 desserts a month down to about 5. That's the sort of change that's associated with substantial weight loss. But the cooler thing is, so the graph on the left for dessert is 6 months. And then the one next to it is the 48-month graph. So you can see they didn't stay down at 5 desserts a month. They crept up to about 6 a month. I'm sorry, yeah, about 6 desserts a month, and still had that significant weight loss. So anyway.
So, can I just ask quickly, sorry, just for my understanding of this, I'm looking at it. So on the left-hand side, it says desserts per month or beverages per month and such. So it's going up 20, obviously they're having more ones here. I'm just wondering about the actual line. When it says desserts and sweetened beverages, the line is going from left to right in a downward slope. But yet when we've got fruits and vegetables, it's going in an upward slope. Which line actually indicates, where does it indicate the weight loss on these?
Sure. So these 4 lines are groups of people. And the different lighter colors, it's tough to see on this graph. But one of them is a group of people that gained weight. And one of them is a group of people that were weight stable. One of them is a group that had moderate weight loss. And that black line is the people that had substantial weight loss. So usually when I explain this, I usually talk about like, okay, so the substantial weight loss is the line we're looking for. So if you just focus on the black line, you can see what changes over time. So this doesn't tell you how much weight is lost by those people.
Okay, I get you.
So this is just, if you look at the black line, you're looking at people that lost a substantial amount of weight over 6 or 48 months. What did they change? What did they eat more or less of?
Yeah. So. Right. Okay, I got you. So yeah, that was, I think, that was the thing I was looking for. was, as you said, the numbers, which is not there. So I see where this is going now with those graphs. Happy days, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see what we want to have more or less of. Anyway, so if we go to the next slide. So should we put them off limits? Should we, make a cheat day? I saw a photo on Facebook that a trainer had shared, and it basically was a chalkboard, and it said off limits in capitals, and it was underlined. No pasta, no sugar, no pie, no cake, no beer, no wine, no
fun,
fast food, no pizza. And he was like very proud of sharing this, and he had hashtagged it with like motivation, inspiration. And my stomach turned when I saw it. I was like, that is not motivating or inspiring. You're just like giving people rules. And so I apologize for the sirens.
That's just the handsome police after me again.
Yeah. The fire truck's coming. Somebody's on fire. So it's easy to dispense that advice. Like, it's super easy to tell your clients, just don't have any. Then you don't have to think about how you communicate to them, and they don't have to do much thinking. So many of them, in some respects, actually would prefer to hear, okay, just don't have any. However, it's ineffective. So if we're going for a goal of, I want people to have fewer calories overall and fewer of these foods, that isn't what happens when you tell someone you can't have any of these foods. What actually happens is they crave them more. Research shows that people have increased cravings for the foods that are blocked off, regardless of what those foods are. So whichever way you slice it, people crave what you told them they can't have. They desire them more, and they're under more stress. I don't know anyone out there who says they want more stress in their life. And it is one valid way to add a food restriction to somebody's life. It often will decrease the honesty that a person has with you, because they're going to lie when they have chocolate if you told them they can't have chocolate. If you think your clients won't lie to you, I hate to break it to you, they will. When it comes to preserving our self-esteem and our concept of ourselves, people will lie to themselves and do things like nibbling and slivering to say, oh, I didn't really have any. It didn't really count. So it decreases honesty, it decreases motivation. It also opens the potential for binge eating. When people go a long time without something, they tend to go off the rails when they consume it again. A lot of people that do the Whole30, which involves a lot of restriction, they just, day 31 is pretty ugly. Putting foods off limit is a sign of disordered eating, and it does increase the odds of somebody developing more severe symptoms of disordered eating in the future. So it's not a helpful thing. And it's also really easy to undo progress. If you say, okay, have one cheat day a week, or one cheat day a month, or this is my cheat meal, people often will add more things to it because they're predicting the gap of time before they'll be able to have it again. So I would have no problem putting away an entire pizza. Now, that would be several thousand calories of what I actually need. And, if I had been creating a calorie deficit all week, I could undo it in one meal right there. So it is a good way to not see progress. Lastly, if we load all of our, higher calorie foods onto one day or one meal, it favors fat gain more than if you had spread them out evenly over the week. So if somebody's trying to gain, muscle, you actually don't want to do it all on a cheat day. You want to do it on, a small increment every day of the week, so that your body has the opportunity to turn those calories into muscle tissue. Obviously, you need to weight train. Whereas if you load them all in at once, your body can't form a pound of muscle in one gross calorie overage. So it's only going to form a small percentage of that being muscle, and the rest of it's just going to go to fat. So yeah, it's not helpful for body comp to do it all in one day. That makes sense, Seb? Anything confusing that I said there?
No, it again, it kind of reaffirms quite a lot of stuff with me. I think I've mentioned it before. Very many years ago, when I was fighting as a sport rather than lifting, I had to lose a little bit of weight, just a little bit of weight to get below. But it did mean, I was a very lean individual anyway. So did restrict myself and was doing kind of like a fighter's diet and not eating anything. The day after
not
was
eating anything.
Absolute hideous. I even made a friend take a day off to spend the day with me to eat. And
Yeah, you told me
I
about that.
ate. I'm not even joking. I ate like a monster. An
That's crazy.
unbelievable monster. Loved it though.
Yeah, it's kind of normal and understandable, and it's kind of uncomfortable when people do it, but yet we do it again if given the opportunity.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Moving right along. So treating people like adults is how I like to kind of offer this skill, as well as other skills that we want to teach people about health and fitness. Awareness of their current intake is really the first step. A lot of people don't know how much of these foods they're consuming because we aren't keeping track. We're kind of doing other stuff with our brains. So starting with just assessing what items a person is having frequently. Personally, I don't really even like fried foods, so all of my low nutrition calories are definitely going to come from sweets or baked goods, guaranteed. The portion sizes. Sometimes people aren't aware of what sort of portion they're having. They just take a handful here, a handful there. Or, I shared a large popcorn with my husband, but I have no idea how much I ate versus he ate. Or the frequency. Am I really having a treat one day a week, or am I having this 5 days a week? Until we stop and really turn some intentional awareness to it, it's really easy to not quite know. So with One by One Nutrition, our tactic is always to start with awareness and help people, take stock honestly of where they are without judging them and without them judging themselves, if we can help them adopt that mindset. So for weight loss, we want to see if we can reduce them without deprivation, but that never means you got to cut down to zero. If we remember those graphs that were on the earlier slide, none of them go down to zero. These people all saw substantial weight loss that were in that dark lined group, and none of them were like 0 desserts, 0 sweets, 0 fried food, 0 restaurant meals. So people make good decisions when you treat them like adults and when you give them some guidance. All right, next slide.
On that note, one of my students, who me and you have discussed about, absolutely, you're right. It is treated like an adult. He has done so well in himself physically, and one of his words he said today is, "I feel better in myself. Plus, I've lost weight as well." But we do talk like adults. I don't restrict him at all. We just discuss things. We discuss ideas. A hell of a lot of it comes from yourself, and Josh. His fat loss happens on Monday. A lot of the ideas comes from that. And he goes out with his family. He enjoys his meal. He goes out with clients and he drinks. He'll have a little glass a year. He's a hell of a lot more aware of everything. He's a lot more, he admits everything. He's like the type of person you would love to have as a client. Because he's like, yep, I admit it. I admit everything. But then he's like, no, I'm also doing this. I'm also doing that. And he's still losing weight.
That's rad.
We talk like adults about it. I don't be like, hey, come on, we could do this. It's like, hey, all right, you've done that. Accept it. Whatever happens, you got to accept. And he's like, yep, cool, whatever.
Yeah, it's magnificent to get to work with people like that.
A very rare gem, definitely.
Yeah. I know. I'll pick on Nancy because Nancy has coached with me on and off. Like Nancy's one of my family members by now. So Nancy and I worked together since 2012. And that's exactly something that she knows because she's done other programs in the past too, that, when you do something and they say, no, you can't have that. It just doesn't work out well. And so one of the things that we did together was, let's take stock of how much of this stuff, what you enjoy and where you want to use it, because there's so many options. There's not like just one right way to, manage the low nutrition foods that you want to eat. Okay, so what you see on the screen here is actually a pretty new thing. This has just come out in the last month or so. So this is I'm always cranking out new methods here. So this is a new way that I'm doing kind of treats observation assignment. So basically we take a week and we invite people who are in either our group coaching or our one-on-one coaching to fill in this sheet. And so it says the days of the week across the top. And then that section that I've expanded so you can actually read the print is low nutrition foods. So we do a quick tally. How many drinks did you have today? How many sweets, desserts, or candy did you have? How many fried foods? Did you add sugar to stuff? Or did you have some other random thing like Pop-Tarts that doesn't quite fit the above categories? So over the course of a week, we get a rough tally of how much and when. Now, I don't need to see this. The coach doesn't need to see it. It's just for the user to experience what it's like to, as I say, own what they're eating. And it's not easy for a lot of people to fill out, believe it or not, because I did it myself before I gave it to any clients, and I was like, wow, I had more sweets than I thought I did this week. So
yeah, I'd be scared of my results. Yeah,
it can be quite an eye-opener, but I also found like toward the end of the week, I started to realize that I wasn't a bad person by putting, tallies on the sheet. It was really okay. I was still the same me. So let's go to the next slide. If anybody has questions, by the way, feel free to write them in the chat or wherever Seb wants them to go.
Yeah, in the chat box just to the side there, guys, where you were all typing in earlier to say hello. Any questions? Check them out.
Awesome. So the lower section is even cooler. So this part has real life treats. This is all this other stuff that we can do to add joy to our day. Now, I notice I have a tendency to walk to the bakery when I want a fun diversion. But there's all sorts of other things. You could watch a movie, you could pet the dog, you could visit a museum or journal or nap or play a Sudoku or do innumerable other things. And during the week, we also have them track how many of these real life treats they do. So again, my own personal experience when doing this throughout the week was that, one, I recognized I didn't think of all these things when I had some time on my hands and wanted to do something fun. I always was thinking, oh, let me go get something to eat. It also made me realize that some of these I do every day. For example, outdoors. I tend to walk outside pretty much every day of the year. So it was nice to see the tallies all the way across the week that, wow, I really do enjoy the outdoors on a daily basis. And maybe I haven't stopped and been grateful for that. And when we don't think about all the things we enjoy in the course of a day, it's easy to feel like, well, this is the only thing I get as we tear into the bag of M&Ms. It's like, I work so hard, I get so little sleep, I have so much responsibility, this is my only thing. And it can feel a bit like resentment or entitlement. But I found that tallying up the real life enjoyable things made me feel very grateful for the things I do all the time. And it gave me lots of suggestions for how to increase enjoyable stuff. So what do you think of that, Seb? If you filled in the real life treats, how do you think your week would look?
It would probably look better than what I think it does, in all honesty. Looking down there now, so creating or enjoying music, singing, dancing, and crafts. Well, I don't create any, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy music on a daily basis. I actually don't go anywhere in my house without music playing. I live in a house share with other people, so I plug it in with headphones. But even if I go and make a cup of tea in the kitchen, which is below my room, I listen to music. I can't not be without music. I'm outdoors every day. I do have alone time, which is great. Comedy and laughter. Well, I laugh at myself a lot.
I noticed you skipped the romance line.
Geez, I'm also skipping the socializing with friends line as well.
Yeah.
And the retail therapy, and writing a letter, and a massage. I don't really get that. But no, there's definitely a few there. I would actually as well, my own personal preface, I'm a lover of this type of stuff, but volunteering. I would love to.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Because today I was at the hospital and I played a game of Monopoly with a young girl who's about 10 years old. Fantastic. Because I did not think about anything else. Well, I won't discuss her circumstances, but it's not natural. And, the poor lady is restricted to her room. So the game of Monopoly between us, me and this young lady, which was a great laugh, rinsing each other of fake Monopoly money, saying, ha, you owe me money for my 4 houses, or I landed on your square with a hotel. But we both got to divert our attention away from everyday normal life that's surrounded by, and as well as food and treats and weight and everything else.
Yeah, and isn't that a lot of times, some people that are watching this might be like, what the hell? I thought we were talking fried chicken. Why are you talking about naps? Because it's related. It's related. It's not about the fried chicken. It's about, we can't just tell people eat less junk food, drink less wine, without talking about what the purpose is that it's serving. And just like you said there, it's this escaping some of the rougher things in life, enjoying something that's pleasurable. And yeah, food is pleasurable. But if we rely on food for all of the pleasure in our lives, it tends to produce an unhealthy body. So I like to advocate a nice balance, enjoy some of the low nutrition foods, but also make sure you're balancing it out with a lot of real life treats too.
Defo.
Yeah. All right. Next slide. There we go. Awareness is hard, as I already mentioned. Logging it is hard for a lot of people, but it's if you do something like this with your clients or yourself, try and push through that initial phase and get to the end of the week, because by the end of the week, people will have gained a lot of insight. In particular, how we use foods to change our state. Sometimes people use it as a permission slip to relax. Like, oh, once I sit down with a glass of wine, I can relax. You can actually sit down and relax without the glass of wine being there. In fact, they've done studies with people where they tricked them into thinking they were consuming alcohol, and they display much of the same mannerisms and feelings and perceptions as if they had alcohol. So a lot of it is the expectation of greater relaxation. How we eat dessert, many of my clients realize that they never sit down to eat the dessert, and I'm totally guilty of this. You just keep cutting slivers off of things, or I'll just break a piece off the cookie, and then break another piece off the cookie, and then break another piece off the cookie. Portion size awareness. Telling a handful each time you have a handful of chips can show you that you're actually taking in 6 or 7 servings where you thought, oh, I just had chips once. It can also, as we said, show you how many other forms of enjoyment you have on a daily basis. And there's generally some options that people aren't pursuing regularly, and it's a nice suggestion to, I made a bit of a game of it personally to try and see how many I could check off each day. So I was like, aromatherapy. All right, I know I have a smelly candle around here somewhere. So I'm like digging around to find my candle so I can light it and check off the box. So it's a fun game. I don't get out much, as you can tell. Cheap thrills when you're a dietitian. Okay, so next slide.
There we go.
So where to change? So once we've got all this awareness unfortunately doesn't take weight off people. So if somebody wants to pursue fat loss, we want to look at where we want to make a change. So one important thing is talk about which ones were worth it. And when we look back over the week or the 2 weeks prior, it doesn't matter, we can usually think of certain non-nutritious or low nutrition foods that we had, which were super enjoyable. And I think of this woman here eating that slice of pizza on the side and how she is just like smiling. It's definitely very artificial, right? Like nobody smiles that big when they're eating pizza, but she's enjoying it. That's a good slice of pizza. And then I think of the woman who's got the popcorn and she's just like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. I'm probably just stuffing it in my mouth. And most of us have some spectrum of that experience. I have definitely eaten things while I was on Facebook and just kind of looked at it and be like, wow, I didn't even pay attention to that. And now my chocolate's gone. So having more of the experiences where it's super enjoyable, where we're paying attention to our food and choosing the stuff that's our favorite, as opposed to the less awesome things like the stale donut that we ate just because we were angry at our boss. Pairing out those less awesome things is a great place to save calories and not feel like we're being deprived, because most people wouldn't feel deprived if they just paired out the things that they didn't enjoy anyway. I have a lot of clients, both in the groups and one-on-one, make a list for themselves personally of what's worth it and what's not worth it. And of course, it's a little bit more complicated than 2 columns, but we can generally think of specific foods that are like, oh yeah, that's so worth it. There's the bakery that I like to go to. They make a banana chocolate chip scone. It's been worth it every single time I've had it. I can tell you that. Some things which may not be worth it. What have I gotten that's just kind of lousy? Oh, I got a bagel from somewhere that was kind of stale, and I definitely ate more of it than I needed to eat before I was like, why am I eating this? It's not that good. What do you think is like on your totally worth it list in terms of non-nutritious stuff, Seb?
What isn't on my list? Cookies, donuts, ice cream, pizza, barbecue. Yeah, kind of a lot of things.
Those are your favorites?
Well, they're my favorites, and as I mentioned to you earlier before we started, it's kind of a daily thing at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's part of the that's part of reality. Like at certain points, depending on a person's goal, you could have more or less proportionally of your foods coming from, non-nutritious stuff. I have Olympic athletes I work with. They're training 4 hours a day. They can definitely eat more ice cream than I can. It's, it's one of the truths of life. So if somebody has a larger calorie budget, then yeah, they can definitely eat more of that stuff. Yeah, as I said, I like baked goods. I like dark chocolate. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't have any alcohol calories. So that helps make more room for sweets in my life. It's also worth considering the company. Some people enjoy things more when it's a shared experience, like when they're out on a date with their husband, or when they take their kids and they go as a family all for ice cream or frozen yogurt. It's a lot more fun than if they're just doing it on their own. And I definitely feel that way. I have much more fun when I go with Roland and we kind of make an event of it. The emotional state is huge. I personally have I have Olympic medals in emotional eating. I have quite a past with trying to solve my hurts and various sufferings with cookies, chocolate, and or chocolate cookies. And it's definitely something that I'm very passionate about now, that I don't go for that type of food when I'm highly emotional or when I'm mostly sad or angry, because it's just going to invite that back. Because it does, one, it conditions you to do that the next time you feel emotional. But secondarily, it's not as enjoyable. Like, I am not enjoying food well when I'm eating it out of sadness or anger. And most people are that way because our consciousness is so focused on this very emotional thing and what the other person said or what we wish had happened and what if only this, that we're just kind of absent-mindedly taking in calories. Am I the only person that's ever done that? I hope not.
No.
My clients would generally say I'm not the only person that doesn't pay much attention to their food when they're highly emotional. Okay, so next slide. So we've had this, discussion. We've talked about the worth itness. Our client has awareness now. So now we give options. I never tell my clients what they need to do. I just kind of let them know what their options are, ask them what they think would be doable for them. And there's various ways that we can kind of phrase or conceptualize the idea of including less of the non-nutritious foods. We can quantify them. Some people are numbers people, and they're like, give me a budget. And they say, okay, count up how many you had in a week. Let me know what you think your budget should be for next week. And they'll be like, oh, I had 14. Maybe I want to aim for 12. And if they say, I had 14, I think I'm going to aim for 3. I'll say, well, that's a bit of a big jump. Are you sure you want to go that dramatically? So, just aiming to nudge it down. It's not a race. Some people will do it in the tally like that. Other people will think of their budget as calories, because I had one client that realized, wow, each time I have a hard cider, it's 225 calories. Each time I have a glass of wine, it's 90 calories. And I like them about the same. Why don't I just have wine more often than cider? So she thinks about it in terms of like total calories. So yeah, up to 200 calories a day for her, she knows, is a reasonable budget for the non-nutritious foods. We can also think about modifying the portion size or frequency. If somebody has a specific food like dark chocolate and they have, was that you or was that me?
No, I didn't hear a thing.
Oh, that must be me then. I don't know. My computer just made some sound like.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's you.
Who knows what that was? So the portion size, let's say they have 4 squares of chocolate, we could say, okay, well, can we do 3 squares of chocolate? Or the frequency, instead of doing it twice a day, can we just do it once a day, maybe after lunch or after dinner? Some people find it easier to have the small portions more often, and some people find it easier and more enjoyable to have larger portions, but then space them out more. And both of those can really work. It's a matter of preference. You can also swap items. For example, swapping the hard cider for a wine. You're saving, several hundred calories if you have more than one. So that's an example. Some people find oh, I can use the light pancake syrup instead of the regular pancake syrup, and I save 100 calories of sugar, and I can't even tell the difference. So that's a good example. And adding in more of those real life treats. I had one client that we made a ratio, and I can't remember the ratio, but he had to have a certain number of real life treats for each for each of the non-nutritious foods on his list. So it became a bit of a game to balance it. Okay, next slide. I can't even remember how many slides I have here, so this is a bit of a surprise for me too.
I think this might be the last one. I'm taking a guess.
I think so too. Yeah, I think this is the last one. So hopefully this presentation has given you some ideas, whether it's for yourself and your own intake of these low nutrition foods, or if you're working with clients and you want to help them out. These are kind of obvious things that are worth saying because sometimes we forget the obvious. Low nutrition foods are in abundance. It's really common to get this scarcity mindset of, oh my God, I need to eat this particular Easter candy because it's only going to be out for a limited time. Well, after Easter goes, there's going to be different candy in the summer, and then there's going to be Halloween candy, and then there's going to be Christmas stuff. So there's no shortage of low nutrition foods. I tell my clients, if you have a wallet and a car, you can pretty much get any food at any time you want it, especially if you have an internet connection. You know, I could buy British candies or German candies or anything that I particularly want. Not keeping them at home, super simple way to be less tempted. If we have, treats in the house, we are more likely to eat them than if we have to go out to get them. If it's not awesome, stop eating it. If you're halfway through something and you're like, wow, this is not awesome, it's totally fine to be done. If you savor things slowly, less can be enough. I was reading some research this week as I was writing lessons on, not eating when we have screens. So, the television or the phone or playing a video game. And interestingly, we have what's known as sensory specific satiety. And that's when you eat the same food and you continue to eat the same food, the same taste, eventually your brain gets tired of that sensation and it's not as nice anymore. That ever happened? Like where you're eating enough, I don't know, spicy food or enough M&Ms, and like at a certain point, even if you like M&Ms, like they kind of turn you off. Did that ever happen to you, Seb?
Just trying to think. I gotta be honest.
Not really.
No.
You can eat all the M&Ms in the world.
I'm still kind of waiting on when I'm gonna get turned off cookies and donuts, because at the moment it's just crazy the amount I'm eating of it.
Well, it may not be. It's not a turn off in terms of like long term. Just in terms of like right now, like at some point you stop eating the donuts, even if it's for a number of hours.
Oh, right. Yeah, but I think in that case, then yeah, definitely.
A couple hours you want it again, but at some point you're like, I really don't want any more right now.
Yes. No, you're totally right. I have felt that before.
Yeah. And interestingly, it's taste specific, which is why we can say, I don't want any more green beans. Yes, I'll have some ice cream, because it's a different taste. Or a lot of times I'll make like a really decadent sweet protein shake, and I've got like peanut butter and chocolate, cocoa powder and sugar-free Hershey syrup on it. I mean, it's like as close to a sundae as you can think. And I'll finish that and I'm kind of done with sweet, and I'm like, oh no, I want a piece of cheese or something that's salty. So we can kind of like overwhelm our taste buds. But the reason I'm saying don't multitask is that effect doesn't happen when we're watching TV or a video or distracting ourselves, even listening to a podcast. We don't get that sensory specific satiety that says, you've had enough donuts when we're distracted. It's just like we can just keep putting it in and putting it in and putting it in and not get sick of it. So especially when you're eating those foods that are non-nutritious and you want to enjoy it and not have an unlimited amount of it, try not to multitask. Sit down and pay attention to what you're doing. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. Absolutely.
Cool. And then last point, keep the rest of your meals novel and tasty, because there's so many ways to make food enjoyable without having to add, sugar or other, things that boost the calories without boosting the nutrition. Switching things up, the preparation methods, or getting some new spice mixes, or getting different fruits and vegetables, or getting a meat that you don't normally get, or fresh berries. There's endless ways to add variety and new flavors to your foods. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily go for for cookies to make an enjoyable lunch or dinner. So that is all I've got when it comes to junk food and fat loss. So in summary, we want to start with awareness, and then we want to look at what's worth it and not worth it, and then think about what reduction fits best for us and make sure that we're replacing it with an adequate amount of real life treats and other enjoyable things. Any questions from the crew, Seb?
Any questions from the crews? Guys, if you got any questions, do type it in. Of course, if you don't have any questions, do please show your appreciation to Georgie for, again, sharing her mega wisdom and knowledge for us. Just to let you all know, you can also go to her website for more information, askgeorgie.com. And as you mentioned at the start, happy birthday to the book, Lean Habits for Lifelong Weight Loss. I've nearly finished it. Nearly finished it.
Really?
I'm at the last few pages. It's taken me a while, but I think I may have mentioned before, I am really slow at reading, and I like this. I need to be in the mood for it. I gotta be in the right mood to sit down and actually read. Otherwise, I not only lose attention, but I don't retain information. So I'm getting close. Few pages left.
Now you're clearly not seeking a fat loss goal yourself, but are you finding anything in it that's usable for you personally? And no is okay.
Well, I think at the moment, it's not something that I am using because, as we mentioned before, I'm trying to actually gain weight just to get a bit bigger for these competitions I'm doing. But a while ago, when I first read the chapter about exploring hunger and feeling hunger a little bit, I did do that for a little bit. And I did notice, over the space of a week or maybe a couple of weeks, little bits of changes here. I experienced hunger for about 15 to 30 minutes. And I didn't panic after a few days. I didn't panic as much. As before, I feel hungry. Right, I need to eat. I need to eat something now, or I need to eat someone now. And I started to relax. I started to be comfortable with feeling hunger. I also enjoyed the chapter about relating the need to eat with emotional states, and as well as not, recognizing emotional states and the fact that, hey, it's okay to feel bad. Don't try to camouflage it with food. It's all right to feel bad for a little bit. Deal with it, move on. You don't need to hide behind food.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of an impossible task if we try and avoid all unpleasant emotion.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can't always avoid it. One day is just going to crack. It's okay to feel these type of things. So yeah, definitely.
As you can tell, one of my favorite topics is emotions and food and why people eat the things they do.
I think it's really important. It's something that we miss out quite a lot. As you mentioned at the very start, it's easy for someone, that person on Facebook, to say, don't eat anything. But yet, a lot of people, it's not just a case of uneducated on what to and to eat. Quite often an emotional state is mixed in with it. So if you're telling the whole community don't eat this and that, well, you've missed a lot of issues there, and you're going to get a lot of failures from some people because it's more than just what they are eating.
Yeah, the trainer, I actually, so I tried to take up a bit of a discussion with him, like, well, I've there's some evidence that this type of message is not as effective as it could be. I tried to, help him out, and inquire respectfully about, maybe you meant, having as little of these foods, having less of these foods is what you want your clients to do. And he said, no, absolutely zero. They are 100% off limits. And then he said something that was really interesting. He said, none of these foods help fat loss. And I was thinking, wow, that's what you really think this is all about. I'm aware that eating Snickers bars does not help fat loss, but thank you for, making sure that I knew that.
Yeah, wow. Hey ho, hey ho, hey ho. Well. On that note, Georgie, thank you very much. Doesn't look like we got any questions coming in, but we do have lots of appreciations. I can't thank you enough for, again, giving up your time to spend it with us, me, and all our listeners as well, and for your knowledge. Thank you so much, Georgie, and as well for your, the time you take to put these PowerPoints together. I know they're not easy.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much to Seb and everybody at Strength Matters, and thanks for the attendees for showing up.
Mega, mega. On that note, guys, get yourselves over to the website. All of our recent webinars are uploaded. And do reach out to us. Anything you need, anything we can do to help, or anything you want to say, reach out to us. On that note, take care of yourselves, guys, and each other. Goodbye.